Hello, my name is Connor Lott, and I had the privilege and opportunity to lead 8 other students from Azusa Pacific University to go to Utah and have interfaith dialogue with LDS students, also known as Mormons or Latter-day Saints. And we, as Evangelical Christians, went up and had sincere curiosity. What do they believe? What are they saying? How do they live their lives? And how can we better understand where they're coming from, as opposed to put words in their mouth or believe certain things that have been preached all through the years. But we wanted to come down and break away misconceptions, break away misunderstanding, and truly be able to love each other with love and respect, and move forward and get to know each other. So it was an incredible opportunity to do this. And so as the leader, I put the trip together, and the dialogues, we had 3 official ones, one at BYU, one at a BYU professor's house, and a third one at Utah Valley University. And these 3 dialogues were phenomenal. They consisted of convicted civility. So what convicted civility means is we have strong convictions that we believe, but we're going to civilly discuss them. We're going to, in love and respect, discuss these ideas that we hold so dear and live through. We also have holy envy. We're going to compare our best with their best. We're not going to compare our best with the LDS's worst or the LDS best with our worst, but we're going to hold each other up in light and support each other and grow in the most possible, to both grow as people in our faiths, in our perspectives, and to be better for it together. So that really set the framework. We're not going to attack. We're not trying to win something, win a debate. We are trying to listen, open our ears, and understand each other. And in this day and age, that is hard. It's harder to do that than point your finger. If we listen to them, and let's say an LDS says, oh, when was the last time you had a home family evening with your family? When was the last time you practiced the Sabbath day? When was the last time you read your scriptures? As a high school student, were you getting up at 6 a.m. every day for 5 days a week before school to study your scripture? And as an evangelical Christian, that alone is convicting, and it's easier to point the finger and say, oh, you're wrong, doctrinally. So in this effort, we can grow. In high school, I had a lot of LDS friends, and I started to get on this road of this dialogue and trying to really understand. And, I'd say, oh, why don't you believe in the Trinity? And they said, why do you? Good question. Let me get back to you. And it pushed me to dig deep into my faith. Was it because of my pastor, my church, my parents, my anything? Or is it because it's what I know to be true through study, prayer, reading the Bible, all these different things that come down to it? And I am defined. There's a reason why I'm still not Mormon, because I do believe strongly in my beliefs that I found and researched and went into. And you could do this with any religion, with atheism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, all these different things. Can we learn to listen and grow by challenging each other in what we believe, and not saying, hey, you're wrong in this, but hey, how do you live out your faith? How do you experience the God or the greater being that you worship? How do you experience the doctrines you fall under? How does that make you feel? And so we had some great dialogues. One of the guys at BYU who I had a phenomenal time with, and he said it's not about the quantity of conversion, but the quality. And he said a story. There was a group of missionaries that actually taught and baptized a individual all in one day, which is huge. There's like 8 lessons and then all this stuff. And that's massive. And I reflected on the evangelical world. So many times in the evangelical Christian world, you have altar calls and sinners' prayers, and people come forward, which is great. But are we invested in the quality conversion of those people? Are we walking with them, or are we looking at numbers? You should not support a ministry based on the numbers, but on the faithfulness to God. And that's huge, because the quality of the conversion is what's so important. Because it's not just a one-day decision, it's a process. No matter what religion you believe, everyone converts to something. You're converted to buying a smartphone. You're converted to buying, a certain meal. You're converted in a positive way to join a belief system that supports you and is better for you. And for me in the evangelical world, that looks like I, as a human fallen being who can do no right no matter what, Jesus Christ is able to come and redeem me from shame, from guilt, from weakness, and restore me to honor and power and forgiveness. And that's just an amazing thing. And so everyone converts at some point. And so that point by this BYU student was just awesome. I loved how he worded it, the quality of conversion. Can we have more quality conversions? At one of the dialogues, one girl on the LDS side, she said at the end of the conversation, "You guys make me want to know Jesus more." And that's amazing for both groups to come together in love and respect and dialogue about this, and to have both groups come and have a growth and an idea of, man, they are practicing in this way. One of the things I recommend to everyone is listen to Scripture, listen to the Bible. And it's amazing, and one of the people in my group was challenged and loved that, and just this exchange of how do you live out your faith and how can we both be better for it. And so it was just amazing. So another part about the UVU dialogue was this one girl came late to the conversation and she said, "To be honest, I don't really know anything about what evangelicals believe. What do you believe?" And that was just a beautiful moment because that's what the whole week in dialogue was about. And so I got to then share everything pretty much that I hold dear and believe and trust. And so it opened up in this peaceful way. I started from the beginning. As an evangelical Christian, I believe in the triune God, one God, three persons, each person being fully God, being at the beginning of time, from all eternity, and then, speaking creation into being, starting there, creating humans in His image, loved and valued, and then as humans, we rebelled and sinned against God, and we're then moving through to Israel and just the law and how they weren't able to live up to the law. Jesus Christ coming, fulfilling the law, dying, rising again 3 days later in order to fulfill the sacrifice that was needed, and then being able to accept the grace that God's extended to us. It's a gift. It's not something we earned, it's not something we worked for, but we get it. But through the grace, if we accept it and we understand it, then we live a life of working for Christ in gratitude and gratefulness because we've been changed and given life and given power and given honor and giving innocence as opposed to fear and guilt and shame. And so that whole dynamic, then we move forward and into, then afterlife relationship with God, in the New Jerusalem and in heaven and that kind of thing. And so just able to explain all of that was just amazing. And it wasn't in, hey, you need this, blah, 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 but it was in just this respectful, wonderful platform. And then I'm able to ask the same question, say, look, how do you live out your faith? And it was just this beautiful picture of everything we wanted. And she was just willing to ask the question, and I was able to explain it. And, I believe that truth. Everyone needs that truth. Not everyone will agree with it, and that's the process, but we're all getting better and learning from it and improving in our spiritual walk and faith through those conversations. So that was just another story from the UVU dialogue that I thought was super important. Another story, so my team, the team of 9 of us, we got along super well. We joked the whole week that we should not have been a group. The way God provided us to be together was just amazing. And so when I was trying to get the word out there about the trip I was leading, there was a point in time when it was only me and my co-leader, Larissa, and we were praying and we were looking, and by God's grace, He brought some people with the right mind and culture together. And we had, so I'm a marketing major, we had English major, communications, political science / sociology, biochem, nursing, theater arts, biblical studies. It was an incredible group. Incredible. So many diverse backgrounds, perspectives, and it created this culture that was so rich. And so it was just a blast to get to know them. I hadn't known any of them other than one guy. And so we bonded super well. Not one problem amongst our group. No gossip, slander, anything. We were all united and looking, how can we experience this spiritual dialogue and the spiritual experience up in Utah and come together as united people. together and grow and have great conversations. And we had so many great debriefs and talking about what we learned on the trip. And it was just amazing. It was truly amazing. And there was so much fruit and growth in hard but good conversations that we had. We also had a unique opportunity. We got to go to a private university up there, working with an InterVarsity group, and just trying to have some good conversation with students. Where are you at in your spiritual walk? How do you feel in this? Are you hurting? Are you deprived? Or are you, set? And do you have any questions? That kind of thing. And I took one guy, we went out and did some prayer walking and just trying to see, okay, God, is there anyone that needs to be set free from something? Is there anyone that needs your love, your truth, and to be guided kind of in that way? And it was just, so I was kind of talking, he had never done it before, so I was kind of talking him through the philosophy of it all, and we're not trying to win something, we're not trying to get something, but can we be there to support and love and be guided by Jesus? And so we're walking and we get to the end of the campus, and these two guys come walking up the road. Hey, how's it going? They walk past, but there was a girl behind them. She came walking up and, hey, how's it going? And we talked for an hour and 20 minutes. And we talked, and God was so good because she was walking around that campus with no one to be with and nothing to do. She was lonely. She's from China, and up in Utah, it's a white majority, and for some reason at this school, people were treating her with racism, prejudice, or purposely ignoring her and just outcasting her. They didn't even want to try to get to know her. And that broke my heart to see this person made in God's image, valuable and loved, and just completely outcasted. But God had a plan. And so we started talking, hey, what are you, what's your major, what you're interested in, and that kind of thing. And, because she was Chinese, I had this background. As a kid, I was actually really interested in China. I tried to learn Chinese and all this stuff. We actually hosted a foreign exchange student from China for a year at my house. Got to know her really well, and I was also in an international business class, which was heavily focused on China and Chinese culture. So I've always had a love and appreciation for Chinese culture, love it so dearly. And so, but I understood, with Chinese culture, it's a collectivist culture, the Western world is much more individualistic, but China is much more collectivist, family units and groups. And so, I kind of leaned into, so a part of the gospel is this honor-shame dynamic where in our sinful state, we have this shame that just overshadows us, but when we put our trust and faith in Jesus Christ and repent, we're able to be restored and given life in honor and be a part of the family of God and be a son and daughter of Christ. And so I kind of hit that point heavily because I understood that she probably has shame because maybe her parents, if she gets a bad grade, her parents might not look at her too highly. But I wanted her to know that no matter who or what she did, she was valuable and loved by God and valuable and loved by me and the guy I was with. And so just able to pour into and speak truth and life. I had the opportunity to just talk about her culture. We talked about guanxi. We talked about mooncakes and the tradition that is. Talked about, some of the, Great Wall of China, that kind of thing. But then I asked her, we were talking a little bit, and she said she was coming to LA just for some adventures and stuff. And I said, hey, I'll give you some recommendations. Can I get your WeChat? And if you don't know, WeChat is it's the social media texting platform that China uses pretty much entirely. And she was, WeChat, WeChat? And was just stoked. And she was stoked that why would this white guy know what WeChat is? Why would I have WeChat? And that's where education and faith is so important, because if I didn't have this cultural awareness of Chinese culture, I wouldn't have been able to connect with her. I wouldn't have been able to be a part of setting her free. But instead, God used this education to be able to speak into and love her. And so God put on my heart, okay, just speak life. And so I was just I am so appreciative of Chinese culture. So just naming it off. We gave her the opportunity to lead us around campus, show us some stuff. And we prayed for her, and that was really powerful. And we got to go introduce her back to the InterVarsity team. And she stayed there for another 20 minutes when I went back out and left. And that alone, even if nothing else on the trip was a success, that she was lonely and she needed this love. And where would it come from these two white guys from California? But it was just an absolute pleasure. She is amazing. I love her so dearly, and she's just so valuable. And it was just amazing. It truly was. We had a day at like Temple Square, saw the tabernacle, just amazing infrastructure by the Mormon Church, and that was super interesting. Learned a lot, and we had the opportunity then that night to go see 3 of my LDS friends back from home from high school. And that was truly, truly amazing. Them 3 were the ones that started me on this whole journey. So I read through the Book of Mormon when they all went on their missions. I started this conversation. One of my friends said, "Oh, we're pretty much Christian too." And it kind of caught me off guard a little bit, and I was a little bit confused. And so that's when this conversation started. And then they were going to go on their missions, and as their friend, I didn't want them to leave. I knew it was going to push them in so many ways and grow them and move them, but I wanted to, I didn't want to email them once a week. I wanted to talk to them and see them. But they left, and through that time I read through the whole Book of Mormon and took tons of notes. Super interesting. There's still a reason why I'm not Mormon today, even though I read it. And so with that, being able to come back to Utah 3 years later and talk to them, and for them to see 8 people in Utah, because of their willingness to be patient with me, help me, teach me, talk to me, so that I could bring 8 people up to Utah to be able to love well and get to know and understand what they hold so dearly. The Mormons just love, and they love what they believe, and they hold to it so dearly. So to be able to bring in and appreciate and understand, not trying to win, not trying to debate, but to understand. And it was just, I was talking to one of them, and just to look over, it was just so humbling. And actually that night I was dialoguing with a couple of my team members. We were talking just about the future, and because I'm starting an Interfaith dialogue club on my school campus, hopefully this next fall. And we were talking about it. One guy, he wants to lead the trip next year. They want to be a part of the club that we're starting. And at that moment, I just was overcome with emotion that the fact 3 years ago, I never could have perceived that God would have done all this, that God would have brought this passion in me to understand and learn about the LDS Church, and to move it into just this culture that is so loving and generous, still strong with our convictions, by not letting that get in the way of loving people well. So we worked with a group called Standing Together, and the leader of that, Greg Johnson, one thing he said, which I love, he said, look, if you want to say Mormons are your enemies, you're supposed to love and pray for your enemies. If they're your neighbor, you're supposed to love your neighbor. Either way, we're supposed to love them. And so how, as an evangelical Christian, can we love people well? And so it was just so humbling to see this vision I had, that God gave me this passion, and to be able to have these people so passionate about it. And I'm graduating in the fall, and I can't continue the trip and the club, but these people have been placed and are so stoked. And it was just so humbling. So that was probably one of the biggest highlights, because it was a round trip. It was from the beginning of all this to be there with this group of my friends from back home and the group I brought, and it was just truly remarkable. And so some takeaways. I grew just as a leader, leading people in discussions and understanding how people's worldviews and how they interact. And back to one of the dialogues, I talked about, we talked about the truth and what defines truth and how important that is, objective truth. And one girl was, I said how I did, and she was stoked and she was super excited. And she agreed with how I look at truth. And I think for everyone, can we be consistent truth seekers? Can we be consistent in challenging everything we believe? Truth, if it's objective, you can compare it against every argument at any time, and it will stand. It will be held, and nothing can break it. And so can we challenge everything we believe, every worldview, every prejudice, everything? Challenge it. And that challenge, I believe, Jesus Christ, who he said he was, fully God and fully man, coming down as God the Creator and coming and dying and rising again 3 days later in order to be reconciled in a relationship with us, to restore us from guilt, shame, and weakness to power, honor, and forgiveness. And so, but I challenge you, challenge these claims. Is he who he said he was? He said, before Abraham was, I am. That's a huge statement. Huge. And so, with all this, so I learned so much, just better communication skills, all this, and it truly was just a remarkable trip. There's still so much more, but all the historical sites we saw, the different perspectives, was just truly, truly amazing. And one last point, I think in the evangelical church, in the Evangelical Christian church, there's a lot of fear. And this burdens me. There's a lot of fear because I think a lot of evangelical Christians aren't necessarily equipped. They say, oh, we're right. Oh, why are you right? Do you know? If someone said, hey, can you explain the Trinity? Can you explain the gospel? Can you explain, are we well studied? Can we learn from the Mormon church about being disciplined in some of our actions? And dig a little bit deeper into why do we believe what we believe? And then be able to articulate it and be able to explain it clearly. And so I'm burdened, if an LDS missionary comes to someone's door, we should not have fear. They're coming to our door. If you say you have truth, why would you deny someone coming to you? My recommendation to any evangelical Christian, learn what you believe, know why you believe it, be able to well articulate it. And if a Jehovah's Witness, a Mormon, someone else comes to your door, listen to them well, understand what they're saying, and then, maybe share some experiences. But especially with LDS missionaries, man, feed them a meal. Give them extra couple pairs of clothing or something. Give them, a souvenir from the area. Love them well. They get so much rejection because they're going door to door and they don't know who they're going to talk to. As the evangelical church, let's be a people that loves all people well, especially when they come to your door. But have that challenge you to know what you believe. Can you articulate it? Can you explain it? Especially in church. It's, oh hey, God saved me, and we have all these Christianese terms. Let's get around that. Let's speak clearly and really know what we believe. So with that, thank you so much. It was an absolute honor to be able to speak and to be able to share this experience, as Utah was just amazing. And please let me know if any questions. I didn't really get into all the doctrine and all the differences, but mentioned some stories, and it truly was just remarkable. Be prepared to see this culture start to change people. More than ever in this world, we need to learn to listen. So listen well, please. Have good context, and I'd love to hear from you. So with that, I love you so very much. You are made and valuable in the image of God. Shalom.